My name is Ayishat Akanbi. I'm a fashion stylist, a writer, and a cultural commentator. I became a stylist about 10 years ago. I probably wasn't actually that interested in fashion as much as I was interested in style and perception. So I grew up in Southampton, which again was largely white. There wasn't many black people around, but I always dressed quite differently. And I remember growing up, and when I moved to London, and I was at university, I was working in Camden actually, at Offspring, down the road. And people would come, you know, interesting people who maybe were coming to MTV, would come into the store and they would always ask me what I did. You know, everyone just assumed because of how I looked that I must do something else. And for a long time, I didn't necessarily know, like, what that else was. But eventually, you know, I knew that I liked dressing myself. I knew that I liked being a character or choosing who I wanted to be each day. And so I one day told someone that I was a stylist. You know, that's what I did outside of here. I'm a stylist. And then...
Did they believe you?
Yeah, they did. They gave me their card. And that was maybe in like 2007. And they gave me their card and they were working with little Sims at the time. And that nothing necessarily came from that. But I remember I met Labyrinth before he got signed and before he was famous and everything like that. And I really was interested in his music. I thought he was really talented, and I wanted to style him. This was going to be my first client. I was like, you know, I think you could really do something. Like, let's style you. I styled him. We went through loads of different things that definitely did not work. And then when we finally did get to the image that he did his early music stuff with, it just fit like a glove, and it felt right. And he eventually got signed to Simon Cowell's label, and they didn't know who I was. They had a little black book of people that they work with, of industry names. I wasn't a part of that. So they put on a little shoot to kind of test if I knew what I was doing. I did that. That ended up, the shoot that we did, you know, it was just meant to be a tester, but it ended up being like his like album cover and single cover and things like that. And from there, yeah, to be fair, I've kept on working with different people. And when I say I wasn't necessarily that interested in fashion, but I was thinking to myself, like, if people are asking me what I do just based on style, you know, if people want to give me opportunities, if people want to give me things just because of how I dress, you know, imagine if I could do this for other people. You know, it really appealed to me, and I always looked at American music and saw the way that it was very international and that it traveled across the world. And at the time, British black music specifically wasn't quite doing that. And so I thought potentially if it had a look, if it had an image, potentially maybe it could travel across the world and maybe other people could look to it and maybe it could be aspirational. And, you know, since then, you know, I've gone to work with, you know, Labyrinth and Tiny and Wretch 32 and pretty much every black male in the industry, and like Emily Sandé and Rod Stewart next week. And,
what about the Americans? I can't remember who we went to interview, and you walked out the room and I was like, what are you doing here?
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Schoolboy Q. Yeah. And yeah, a few people, to be fair. You know, I've had conversations with Kendrick over just styling and things like that. You know, I've managed to do and speak to a lot of people. And for me, yeah, it was just about trying to change the image of what people assumed that people of color were, you know, and by changing that image, being able to give them more spaces and opportunities to do things, which seems like it's happening. There are more people like me. There's loads of stylists now who are black and of color and who are doing really amazing things and are changing the face of, what black music looks like in the UK.
And what it should look like.
Yeah, what it should look like, beyond its stereotypes and things like that. And that's really was my call to fashion and to style. And since then, yeah, I've gone on to do a lot of writing about various things, whatever I'm thinking about. And I think that's pretty much my story.